Hello friends and welcome back to the channel. So in this video we're going to be looking at Airfix's starter set. Now what I want to do with this video is basically see, has Airfix finally brought out an actual starter set. Now their older starter sets are basically 70-second kits that they already produce, but they come with paints and a brush. To me, they're not necessarily the starter sets. I would probably suggest that they were more of a gift set rather than a starter. But is this kit actually, a true starter set? It does have very few parts on it, and it's supposed to be a lot easier to put together. Now, this video I'm actually going to be just talking to you about the kit. I'm not actually going to be necessarily building it. But if you want to go over to Matt at Model Minutes, he has done an absolutely amazing video on this starter set, so I'll leave a link in the description for that. So all that's left to say is grab that Broder Bricky and let's jump straight into it. So let's see what we get with our starter set. Now what I'm going to do in this episode is show you this new starter kit, and a kit which the same sort of kit they use in their usual starter sets, so the older starter set. So this is one of the newer ones. So obviously we've got a nice graphic picture painting of the aircraft. We've got a nice little picture of the finished model. We would normally get basic paints, a brush and the glue. I haven't got these with this kit because I managed to pick this up with just the kit itself, so we won't be looking at those, but they are relatively decent. You do get the thick chunky old school toothpaste type glue, which I will talk about a bit later on. We've also got a profile on the top, as well as a bit of information about the Spit and Mark V. Got the skill set, which is at level 1, which obviously should be, and the flying areas that you can use with the Airfix Club. On the back we also have some of the warnings and what the kit, what the aircraft should look like once you've painted it. So we'll get looking at the kit. So obviously we have our decals, which are nicely printed. Airfix, admittedly, one thing to do really like about the kits is that their decals are really good. They're quite strong, and they do tend to conform to most of the shapes, which is obviously good. On this kit they are nice and basics, which got top and bottom roundels, the side with the prefix and registration. For this one obviously was the Polish couple of kills, the Polish Squadron badge, and the waist band marking that is on there. So for the sprues itself, they normally will come in a singular bag with the sprue and the clear glass, which would be in a closed canopy position. Sprues we get 3. I mean, really 2 of which are you'll be working from. This sprue in particular pretty much is mostly just the stand, but we do have our prop seat, our little figure pilot, and part of the prop fixing. So yeah, standard sort of our Airfix plastic that we seem to get these days. It's relatively soft grey, slightly matted plastic, but yeah, so we've only got a couple. Very little actually goes into this kit, which is pretty much what you want from a starter kit. So we've got our fuselage parts, the top engine cowl with the exhausts fitted in, radiators, filters, undercarriage, which we get the choice of having down or up, and the main wing and lower, and the tailplanes, which are in singular pieces. It's only the top halves that you'll need to fit to the model. It is actually really nicely detailed as well, which is nice, obviously. So yeah, so it's it is a absolutely simply basic kit. The instructions, I'm actually really impressed with these. So we get a pamphlet with, before you start pamphlet, gives you sort of the tools that you'll possibly will be wanting to be using, and a 15-step of basically building the model, and partly I think some of this is actually sort of helping you figure out the instructions as well if it's the first time you're making a kit. So stuff like, you know, washing the kit before, which we should all be doing, but I generally forget to do it, to be honest. To basically wash any of the release agent off the model, which stops the paint from sticking. Tells you about, you know, when you're looking for instruction for assembly frames, cutting them out with some side cutters, sanding, you know, if you need to drill holes, using tweezers to put parts in, the way the fitting goes on the instructions, areas that you need to glue, which we'll have a look in a minute, which I think is actually quite different and quite interesting. And you know, if you need to help it you know, stick together, if it wants to come apart, you can mask it up or use a clothes peg. Always use wooden clothes pegs. If you do, it just says peg, but wooden, because of course if it's a plastic one, it's not going to stick to the model. You know, stirring thoroughly with your paints, painting small parts on the sprues, you know, allowing time to dry between coats, cutting out your decals, soaking decals and applying decals. So I think that's a really nice add for a starter kit. I don't think I've seen anything like this in kits before that I can remember off the top of my head. So I think it's really nice, and it's in colour as well, which is also quite nice. So the instructions, Airfix's standard instructions, they are pretty much the same as your usual ones, but like I was saying, just they actually highlight the area that you're going to want to apply glue to. So in the case of this, it's yellow, so all these areas you want to put glue on, which obviously going to be the same one, possibly, well, you don't necessarily need to put it on the other side. Sometimes some people do, because it does give slightly better adhesion. Adhesion, yeah, that's the right word, adhesion. It's got a little glue symbol there, so it's pointing to that, so that's the bit you need to glue. You know, obviously parts call out numbers, so C, it's giving you C, even gives you a picture of the sprue that it should be on, so you know what you're looking for. 22, and it tells you there, so C, 22 and 21 in this section there, and it's marked out there, which actually I think is really, really good. Actually, be something to be quite good seeing actual standard instructions through other manufacturers, especially when you've got some of the larger kits which have got 1,000 parts in. That, I mean, especially when I was doing my Egg Panther, that would have been very, very helpful. But again, you move down here, the areas that you need to glue. Also shows, you know, the glue with a line through it, so that's an area that you don't want to glue because you want to keep the blades or the propeller free moving. So all you're going to do is just glue sort of the back end there into place. Again, when we come to the wing halves, again, telling you the areas that you need to glue. You know, your parts call out what sprues that they're on and what the sprue looks like. Again, that's all gluing into place after you've got the wing halves together. The filters and intake there as well. And as we get to these last two in this piece here, everything for some reason is painted, but it gives you the option there to look at whether you want the undercarriage to be up. So if you want to put it on the stand in the flying position, then of course you want to have that up, or even down. I suppose it doesn't really matter. Or if you don't want the stand, obviously you can have the undercarriage down. The one thing I've just realised, thinking of this with the undercarriage up and down, they actually haven't mentioned anywhere of putting the pilot in. Not whether that's a problem or not to you, it doesn't really matter. Obviously, you know the pilot's there, so you can put it in, but there's no mention here. Oh, is it? I might be jumping the gun. Is it there? Oh, there he is. Look, see, jumping the gun. Even though I've looked through these instructions already. But there you go. Last sort of minute, you know, you can put your pilot in. Obviously optional if you want to. By the looks of it, the canopy, I think the canopy actually clips in. yes, there's no glue in there, so the canopy actually clips into place. So that's good, because, you know, especially if you're using the toothpaste glue, which I'll mention a good way of using that in a second. It tends to fog the canopy up, you know, if you're not careful with it. So that just clips into place, and then the last things to pop on is the propeller blade, which you glue onto the back of the I'm going to call it a propeller hub, and your aerial. And then the very last thing is your stand, and again, it takes you to glue the post into the bottom base of the stand, but you don't need to glue it into the main part of the aircraft. And that's the instructions. It's really nice and simple, and I think is really impressive. Now, this kit, it's not an actual starter set, but this is the same sort of kit that you would get if they did it in the starter. So if we pretend this is another Mark V spit in the starter kit, this is basically the same kit as that you would be getting with that starter set. So it's pretty much the same. You've got the artwork on the front, you know, your markings and paint jobs and what numbers to use for that. You can also get the skill level, which again is 1 on this one, and your flown hours for the club. I didn't get this one out as ready as I should have done. There we go. Alright then, so decals exactly the same. The only differences with these, we do have smaller decals to put on within the kit. We've also got the main markings, instrument panel to put in there, which we didn't have to do with the starter kit because it doesn't really come with any cockpit detail, just a bit of framework there, which you're not really going to see anyway in this sort of scale, particularly on the Spitz anyway. So again, got our cockpit glass, which, because this is a P40, so it's slightly different. You've got the main canopy, which is in closed position, and the side windows for this one. But again, I think if you remember rightly, if this was the Spitfire, it would be the same as the newer kit, so it'd still be a closed canopy. Now with this one, again, this is the P40. I think the Spit's the same, if I remember right. It's been a while since I've done it. You've still got a couple of sprues, only 2 sprues in this, pretty much the same for the best part. Again, you've got, you know, nice crisp detail on this. We've got our pilot as well, but as you can see, there's a lot more parts that go into this, and in a fashion is a little bit more, or can be a little bit more fiddly for some people. So like even just stuff like the control column is, you know, it's a very small part. The one gripe I do have with these, and I have this with pretty much all 72nd kits, but Airfix kind of in particular, the sprue gates are so massive to try and cut off. So what I would suggest with these is trying to cut back up here, and then just very carefully, again, even with the side cutters, cutting them back. I'll show you what I mean. It's probably going to be easier. So if we cut them off up here gently, because this can still snap the control column. Cut through it properly with a. Oh, there we go. So this is probably what I would do. I mean, this is not necessarily something you do as a starter, to be honest with you. I'm just showing you this for no apparent reason whatsoever. But I take it off the main sprue and cut it get your side cutters as close to the part as possible. Like that. And then we'll only have a little bit there to try and clean up. But again, that's for something like this. Not with the starter set, you know, you're not really going to have to worry about that. But yeah, there is more parts to this. So if this was their sort of original starter set, I'd probably say, and I know a few others have said this before me, this is probably more of a gift set than probably a starter set, because it is a bit more complicated. Well, I was going to say complicated, it's just a little bit more fiddly. As where the Airfix one, the new starter set is really, really basic. And if this was the you know, their Mark 5 spit in this kit in particular, it will be exactly the same with all the same sort of parts. So you'd be gluing, you know, with your undercarriage, you'd be gluing your undercarriage door covers and all that sort of thing on there as well. So I know this is probably not the best kit to use as an example. In a way, it's similar, but obviously it's not the same kit. If it had the same kit, you'd have been a little bit more easier to do. Now, as I was mentioning before about the glue, I'll quickly go back to I'll quickly mention about the glue while I'm getting these instructions out. So if you're using the glue that would come with the starter set, the toothpaste glue, put it onto a bit of spare bit of plastic or the cardboard of the box or something, that doesn't really matter, and use something like a cocktail stick or a paper clip, and use that as an applicator to put the glue onto the part, so you won't get get a lot of mess on there. So the instructions are still relatively simple, but there is quite a lot going on in these ones. You know, if you're comparing it to these new ones, which, as I says, you know, is showing you the areas that you need to glue to make it simpler, and where your sprue is located and what the sprue should actually look like. I mean, they're not bad instructions, they are followable, if that's a word, but you know, yeah, they are followable. They're not overly difficult to follow. It's just that there can be quite a lot seemingly going on. So, you know, obviously they're pretty much identical. Obviously this one's showing you about putting the flat of the wheel on because they've got the flats on the tyres, but you know, I mean, they're both good kits. They are relatively both simple to do. Obviously the new starter set is extremely easy to do, but I think this new starter set is a true starter set for somebody just about to get into the hobby. It's even be good if you want to make a couple of quick builds as well, you know, because so few parts, you know, you'd be able to snap those together and knock them out relatively quick. But as you can see, even side by side, the detail on them is still really good, and particularly with 72nd, you know, we've got some fastener mouldings in there, as well as the same on there. A couple of some basic rivets on that one, but all the panel lines are there and pretty much, as I can see, accurate. But yeah, definitely, you know, I'm very impressed with Airfix with this starter set kit. I think, you know, with these old starter kits, I think they should personally just either stop doing them or don't put starter set, put gift set on the box, or maybe even just don't put anything on the box. But this is definitely to me, is a true starter set, and would be nice and simple for someone just coming into the hobby. So there we go, guys. Airfix have actually finally brought out an actual starter set. I'm really impressed with it. I haven't built it in this video, so head over to Matt at Model Minutes. It says links in the description down below. I'm going to be using this for a completely different project altogether. I've been sent some chrome marker pens, so I'm going to use that as a bit of a test piece for that. So keep your eyes open for that if you're interested. But I hope you've enjoyed this video. I hope you have found it useful. If you have, maybe consider liking and subscribing to the channel, and you know, check out some of my other videos if you are undecided by this one. So guys, thanks ever so much for watching, and I'll catch you again soon.